So at the end of 2017, we'd just finished up recording and releasing Into the Unknown, our first EP, and we were generally pretty happy with it and got pretty good feedback and stuff. Early 2018, we were gigging quite a lot, and it was going pretty well, but when we started to write and demo material for the next release, we sort of started to come up against some issues with our previous singer at the time. He wasn't showing up to rehearsals. He wasn't really pulling his weight with the writing and stuff. Songs were sitting for 3-4 months with no vocals written for them, and it really sort of began to frustrate us.
With Sam and whatnot, it wasn't really working out. I think we all knew it wasn't really working out. Now, it'd be fair to say that I thought, I'd been the bassist vocalist in my last band, and the band before that, in fact. But it would be unfair to suggest that I'd ever joined the band with that in mind. That was never the intention. The opportunity was there though, and I knew it was, and I was, I think, fairly clear. I think the guys would probably all agree I was fairly clear that I wanted to give it a go.
We'd had a song, Deadline, that had been kind of kicking about since even before the previous EP was released. There was a couple of bits in it that we changed about a little bit, and we were really waiting for our previous vocalist to put something to that. And Col, our bass player at the time, came into rehearsal one day and he said he had a bunch of ideas for it, so we ran through it just as a 4-piece with him doing vocals, and we really liked it. The sound of the track was a lot more groove focused and just drive-in than the stuff on Into the Unknown, and Col's voice really suited it, and the ideas he'd had and stuff were really good.
And that was actually a song that started out called Blob Tits. It was a demo that Drew had from years ago. It was even before I think Catalysis was around. That song was there, and it was just this killer, heavy as fuck, just groove orientated beast that after I think it was up to the second chorus, I think it was where the bridge came in, it just didn't sit right. So Drew and having put the majority of Deadline together, I came in with just a simple riff that sort of tied together the section that was missing. We managed to tie it all in, and the final result is what you hear on Deadline.
We really started to bounce ideas off each other, even in that first rehearsal for backing vocals and stuff. Like, it was really stupid at the time. We were like just singing the words shouting and Satan and like any old rubbish for the backing vocals at the time.
I'm a big eco guy, but I'm really into my fighting climate change and whatnot, and so I came up with the lyrics for Deadline, which I'd taken from probably Frankenstein, from a bunch of different lyrics that I'd written over the time, and put that all together into Deadline. And I thought, well, what is now Deadline, we'll give that a shot and see what it sounds like.
The ideas were really flowing, and Sean had a bunch of stuff written that already kind of had some vocal ideas, so we started to mess about with trying those ones out with Col on vocals too, and it was going really well. We were working really fast and coming up with a lot of new material, and things were picking up. We were actually finishing songs. It wasn't just finishing the instrumental part, then twiddling our thumbs waiting for somebody else to write the vocals. So it was really good, and the logical choice from there was to just go ahead with Col as a vocalist.
I know Drew was really happy with it, and Drew's not normally very happy with a lot of things. So, but that means it means a lot, and so then that really gave me the confidence to just kind of bash on. Sam actually came down to our old vocalist. He came down to one of our rehearsals before it had been he'd actually moved on, and he really enjoyed it as well. And I thought that seemed quite appropriate. He actually also, he added a couple of ideas to it, and that meant it felt like a really good segue between the old and the new, and the old into the new.
Okay, so the way that I would normally tend to write my parts would be that either Drew or Sean would write either a couple of riffs, maybe even just one, or have a whole song to present, or they'll have worked on something as a 2-piece there, and they'll have it to show to everyone else in the band, and it'll get sent to me. And if it's Drew that's doing it, he'll usually just completely leave drums out, but if it's Sean that's writing it, he'll put in sort of his ideas. Obviously he's got the perspective of playing drums as well, so that is quite useful to have there at times, because I maybe wouldn't know what was best for the song immediately, so it's good to have that other input there.
Demo process will generally start with either myself or Drew, in which one of us will have an idea, but fortunately we've both got similar sort of Pro Tool rigs at our homes, so at our houses. So yeah, we can basically begin by just coming up with a riff. Drew lives local to Callum, so they can usually sit together and work on a song, whereas I tend to do mine on my own. But obviously, being the internet age, I can send stuff over to Drew. He can go over things and determine whether or not he likes them, if he wants to make any changes. But yeah, it generally starts with just an idea that either one of us has. Sometimes we'll complete a full demo, sometimes it'll just be in parts in which we work on in the rehearsal space.
So I get sent the vocal list demo. I'll then have a wee tunnel through my library of written lyrics from the past, see if there's anything that kind of fits with how I'm feeling. More often than not, actually, because of the way that Drew and Sean write, they write very emotive music. I'll tend to feel something off of it, and then I'll go, right, cool, I want that kind of a theme. And so from there, I'll then go, right, okay, this is what I want to write. I'll listen to it a few times, stick the headphones on, start penning some ideas down, and from there, I'll then, I've got a studio set up right next to my where I sit most of the time anyway. I literally have to turn 2 buttons and then open up Reaper on the computer, and then that's me. Get up, headphones on, start demoing some stuff, start chucking some things down, listen back, go, doesn't work, does work, and then render it, send it over to Sean or to Drew, let them do a wee quick mix, and then bounce it back, see what the guys think, get some feedback, go again.
Drew, at the time being the main songwriter, wanted to take things in a slightly different direction. Paul had left, I joined, Cole was in, Sam had left. Cole was our new vocalist. So we knew we wanted to do something else. Drew and I are obviously of a similar age, which means we were brought up on the same band, so we do share a similar love for the same type of sound, which is basically a groove-based, heavy rhythm guitar kind of style. So I think when we started writing together, that really shone through. We were really going for that, getting away from a bit more of the sort of twiddly guitar stuff and just trying to, sort of full on punching rhythms and shearing, soaring leads, should I say so.
And working on the new stuff with Sean was just a completely different experience, because really none of the songs on the EP are completely one person's or another. I wrote the bulk of Nothing Left, and Sean certainly wrote like the bulk of Fallen and stuff, but each song has input from both of us, and it was a real big pleasure. For me, I'd found the last EP a really big challenge, because when Paul left the band, which was just before we were finished up recording, Sean joined, and Sean doesn't really play too much in the way of leads, so I really had to step up in terms of the solo. And I was kind of happy with what I'd done on the last release, but I feel like on this one, the band really pushed me, and I think not just me, I think everybody pushed each other to give the best performances, but I feel like I was really, really pushed to deliver something more than I'd ever delivered before in terms of like my lead playing and my solos and stuff on this record, which at times I was like, fuck off, I don't want to play any solos, but like in the end I've tracked some pretty sick killer leads, if I don't say so myself.
Deadline was the original demo that we had, but all of a sudden Drew comes in with a song called, which ended up being Nothing Left. It was called Fast One as a demo, and that came in, that kind of set precedence to what we wanted to do as a band and what we wanted to achieve, that really heavy, fast-paced, groovy attack. So I think starting on Nothing Left really set the bar of what we need to achieve with the rest of the songs in the EP.
The guitar style on the 2 EPs is very different, so the way that I had to approach the drum parts I felt should be quite different as well. Because a lot of the stuff that is on the newer EP in comparison to Into the Unknown is a lot of just like a heavy slab of aggression, essentially, rather than like an intricate riff that has a lot going on. So you're going to be looking at more straightforward drum parts, but you still want to play something that's interesting, something that still grooves, and something that when you hear it you go, oh, that's quite cool, like to the average listener anyway. So that was one of the big things there, was paying attention to the kinds of riffs that were being played on this release in comparison to the last one.
It became quite clear that myself, Drew and Cole obviously all wanted to attempt to do vocals, so we gave it a go. I'm quite interested in doing the clean stuff. Cole's obviously main vocal is incredible for the sound that we're going for, and Drew's backing has always been the sort of perfect sound to back up what Cole was doing, and Sam at the time of course as well. But this time through, I think we really managed to see when the EP was shaping exactly how beneficial it was to us as a band to have that 3 sort of prong attack with 3 varying vocal styles. And like I said, I think that really shines through on Deadline, but other songs as well within it, obviously Cleanse, Fallen, all of them have that sort of style within them.
I guess it probably sounds like it's not very organic, but it actually, because we all get a real good chance to express ourselves in it, we get a real good chance to say, this is how I want this bit to sound. That's why I think about that. It means, and we get a good chance before it becomes an issue, before anybody becomes really precious about a particular part. You know, if someone says, well, no, but it needs to be this length or that length, it's okay, because we're still in the initial stages. It's not like someone's bringing a completed song to the rehearsal room and then you have to have that really awkward chat about, I don't think that chorus goes, you know? And that's, I think that's a really important way to, really why this method of writing songs really works.
It's a lifesaver being able to demo stuff at home. You know, we can really, really hone the songs before we actually commit to them. And then in terms of recording process, we usually track the drums here at DM Studios in Dundee, just to guide guitar tracks and clicks. All the guitars and stuff are tracked at my house, or sometimes at Sean's. We usually sit together to do those, just a second pair of ears, making sure everything's nice and tight. The bass and stuff's tracked at mine, and then we get together and track the vocals at mine with ideally the whole band there, just so the ideas are bouncing back and forward, and we can really, really work on stuff.
One thing that I find quite interesting by the way that we record is that we do it a bit differently from a lot of other bands in that drums aren't generally done first. There'll be the first thing that is done and fully solidified for the album, or the EP, but generally there'll be a demo that has EP-ready guitars on it. It'll just be a case of tweaking them. So generally speaking, guitars are actually kind of done first, and now we've gotten into the habit of doing bass before drums as well. So it means that I have a lot more time to focus on drum parts and such. It means that I've got a solid song to go in with there as well.
On this new release, we were working with Mendel as a producer. He's the guitarist from Aborted, who are one of my favourite bands. I didn't even know he produced stuff really, and I saw an advert on his Instagram one day saying that he was looking for bands to mix and master. He had some time in his schedule, so I checked out a bunch of his work and was really, really impressed. His rates were really, really good. We paid more or less the same as we'd paid the local guy, and the results were night and day difference. So yeah, it just basically came about because I saw an Instagram advert, we checked him out, and it was, his stuff was good. There can be some challenges because, if you're sitting in a room with somebody who's mixing your record, you can say like, well, I think the bass needs to go up there, just at that little bit, or I think like maybe try swapping the panning on the guitars there, or split the harmony differently or something like that. And if you're not in the room with somebody, it can sometimes be quite difficult to convey exactly what it is you mean. But in the end, the quality of the overall product, it made it worth all the frustrations that went along with it.
Cleanse was actually, that came from a demo that I had probably 5, maybe 6 years ago. It was actually called King Fear, and it was one that I put vocals to. It was really just written for me to practice my own vocals, but I think there was a time when I dropped a bunch of demos into our shared folder, and I think it was Drew and Callum that were working through them at the time, and obviously that one stuck out to them with a song that had a bit of a promise to it. So we pulled it out, tore it apart, rearranged a few things to get it sitting right for the sound we were going for. Drew added that fucking killer solo at the start, which really added to that eerie sound. Cole as well added the very initial, I don't know, the sort of sounds of people getting attacked in that, which was really fit into the lyrical content that Cole's put on the song. It's a really killer song. Obviously, the vocals that I had written, or the lyrics I had written, didn't fit with Cole. He wasn't really feeling them, which is totally understandable.
Singing other people's lyrics doesn't work for me. I need to feel it. It needs to be something that, anybody who's seen us live would probably agree that I put a lot into my performance. And it's not synthetic. If I'm not singing about something I care about, you'll get 50% of the energy, 50% of the passion, and that's okay. But it's not giving me what I need out of it. And I know that sounds really arrogant or egotistic or whatever, but for me to go out and perform, for me to really, really push it, I want to be really caring about it. And I don't see how you can send thousands of people out to sea, make them sail for 3 weeks across the Atlantic Ocean in a tiny rowing boat. If that doesn't make you angry, there's something wrong, to be honest.
The other side was interesting because theoretically that song kind of shouldn't work because of the fact that it was written in the complete opposite way of how any of us feel comfortable with writing. Because I remember I had booked a rehearsal for myself, and me and Drew decided that he would come along for a little bit because I was going to be recording drums for Deadline, for a song for the new EP. And he'd mentioned that he'd had a couple of riffs that he'd come up with a few nights before. Because I don't know if they really work together, but we can just see if anything happens with this. Fully aware that that wasn't our normal writing style. So he showed me the main riff, came up with a couple of different drum parts for it, and that was kind of where we came up with the idea of like, well, maybe it could be the intro at first, maybe it could be the chorus later on.
It's batshit crazy for as a song, let's be honest. What is it, 3.5 minutes long, right? And there are, I reckon, 5 different distinct styles in that song. And that's just the music. Before you even start talking about the vocals, there is probably the hardest bit of singing that I do in that song. There is, shall we say it's rap that's in that song? I mean, it's not exactly NWA stuff, but I mean, that fast rhythmic attack is not, it's not in keeping with the rest of the material, certainly not in keeping with the rest of the song. There's a jumpy bit in the chorus that took me bloody ages to get my head around it because the beat kind of flips back on itself. However, it's such good fun to play because it's got that character. And nobody else has written a song like Other Side, I'm pretty sure of that.
So the final track in the EP is Fallen, and that was actually a song that I put together, that when I'd finished it, I kind of held off sending it through because I wasn't sure how Drew would take to it, because it is a little bit different to what I guess he's been used to doing in the past. But he took to it really well, as did the rest of the band. It was probably the one song that we spent quite a bit of time on rearranging because the sort of the midsection with the sort of dual guitars and the harmony section was something that we worked on quite a bit to change around to get the correct feel for it. So that was pushed on by Drew, and then I'm glad he did, because when the solo kicks in, we changed the whole chord structure behind the solo as well. And like I said, I'm so glad we did, because the solo that Drew put on it, to me, is my favourite solo on the EP. I just think it's it fits the sound of the song perfectly. So that turned out really good. Once again, Cole's lyrics and the vocals that he wrote for it, just brilliant. It gives us all a chance once again to do some vocals and backing. And it's just another fast-paced sort of rocker to just end the EP, and I think it does that pretty well.
The Fallen, which is probably actually out of all the songs my favourite one lyrically, originally I think it was a demo Sean had, but that song's that's actually it's probably the only positive song I think I've ever written. I very strongly believe that in positive mental attitude, and that's pretty much what it's about. You know how it's about falling. I used an Alice in Wonderland motif for the whole thing. So it's like if you're struggling, you want to find things that are problems, and every problem makes you fall further down that spiral. And if you hit the bottom, when you hit the bottom and you think it can't get any worse, it actually can't get any worse. It will only get better, and I think that that's a positive. I mean, we're just a wee band from Dundee who just want to write some music that we really, really like. We really enjoy. We enjoy playing it, we enjoy writing it, we enjoy the whole process of it. And things are starting to happen because of that. So we're making moves now. Things are actually starting to come together. We're getting opportunities that would never have thought we could get, and that's because we've got this really, really nice dynamic between all of us. We all do our bit. We all have bits we're responsible for. No one's stepping on anyone's toes. No one's the boss of this band, and that is what makes us. There's such a wonderful thing to be part of. So, and I'm like, it's hard work being in a band. It really is, but it's so worth it when you've got this kind of energy, this kind of creativity, and this drive and togetherness.